While Frank is mainly known for basically being the face of alternative R&B, all of his biggest fans know that there have been moments in his career where he wasn't afraid to rap a couple of verses. From his appearance on the Odd Future Freestyle to him dissing Chris Brown on Earl's Sweatshirt Sunday and numerous other examples. But nonetheless, while some of these verses remain pretty unknown and others are considered to be sacred in the whole Frank stratosphere, there is one track in particular that I believe should be in that sacred category, but based off of what I've seen, barely even gets talked about. I'm sure all Frank fans know this story already, but a day before Blonde release, Frank dropped his 40-minute visual album Endless. It was an Apple Music exclusive that today almost acts as a sacred piece of Frank's discography, since this album isn't the most accessible unless you go out of your way to specifically look it up. And while practically all the tracks on this album are amazing, like Rushes that recently started picking up steam on TikTok because of Waves, his At Your Best cover, and Higgs, arguably one of his most underrated tracks to date, I specifically want to talk about the fifth track on this album, Unity, a track that contains one of Frank's most sophisticated and complex rap verses to date. One of the first bars on this track gives us some insight into Frank's work ethic, where he raps, "My head fatiguing off the opus kept it underground to focus." An opus is a Latin word for work, and in music terms is essentially a way that composers label and catalog their music in a more numeric fashion. In a more modern figurative sense, it's often used to describe an artist's masterpiece or most important work. In the case of this line, I think it could really have two meanings, but both of them kind of lead to the same point. He could have been talking in future tense about Blonde and Endless, where he's saying that he's beat from pouring himself into these two albums, but he stayed out of the public eye to stay grounded and focused. On another end, he could have been referring to his debut project, Channel Orange, and expressing how he set the bar high for his debut, and is stressing, wondering how he's going to live up to that next time around. With a lot of artists, when it comes to debut albums, whether they're good or bad, everyone kind of leaves with the impression that this is your building ground, and as an artist, you're supposed to grow from it. In Frank's case, since he came out the gate swinging with such an amazing album, people obviously expect more from him on the next go around. Frank understands this and is set on delivering, but also understands that he must keep a low profile to ensure that the quality of his projects are top notch. And with the amount of success Blonde's seen, I'm sure that if he's making another project right now, he's following the same formula to make sure that the results are just as top notch or even better. Regardless of how you see this line, I think it's safe to say that Frank sees his lack of communication as a requirement to ensure that his music is up to par on each delivery. The next bar references life after death, a common theme in Frank's music with the line, "I feel afterlife, 6 under oath, don't want no hocus pocus," which is him essentially just saying that he wishes there was less of a mystery when it comes to afterlife. Following that, he shows his disdain for artists that are sacrificing their art in favor of mass appeal with the lines, "Niggas tryna go pop, I draw contact, rip my face mask, nothing but net." With this line, it is believed that Frank is referencing a track that comes later in Endless that sampled Daft Punk's Contact, while also referring to the basketball phrase where a player with the ball makes contact with the opposing player on purpose, making this a double entendre. Frank is basically saying in response to these artists sacrificing their artistry for mass appeal, he continues to experiment and take risks, and because of that, he continues to succeed and surpass people who take this route, hence the nothing but net line. He also references how technology has affected society with the line, "Where's the shaman ayahuasca? I was stab him for atonement." Ayahuasca is a mixture created in the Amazon rainforest that is said to cause a spiritual awakening, so it is usually consumed with the company of a spiritual leader. With this line, Frank is trying to call attention to the fact that something so sacred can be achieved through a simple WhatsApp text. Following these lines, we get a little bit more insight into his wariness of randoms and just how cautious he is with his work with the lines, "I never ever trust a pre-roll, I never let a random shoot the B-roll, I never ask advice from him cause what could he know, I would never mess with somebody that I wouldn't want to be though." In my personal opinion, it seems like Frank is trying to put into perspective just how much attention to detail he puts into everything he associates his with, regardless if it's something small like a pre-roll joint or who he fornicates with, or something that could determine his decisions like who he takes advice from. Skipping ahead to the final verse of this song, we see Frank reflect on his childhood, comparing it to the life he lives now. He starts by comparing where he grew up, Iberville Projects, and Chicago, which is also called Chirac, to Palestine with the lines, Chirac, Palestine like Iberville 1995. You'd think there was airstrikes on outside. He is essentially using this comparison to allude to the violent chaos he grew up around. With the next line, I put refugees in my villa, play kids the fugila. Frank is comparing his family to refugees who are stuck in the conflict and talking about how his fortune from music allowed him to give his family a better, more luxurious lifestyle. From here, Frank starts talking more about his current life, with him lining these last few lines up like he's ordering at a drive-thru. With the lines, place order McMansion and 2 apple pies, I want the Porsche Bugatti design. McMansion, that obviously plays off of the McDonald's menu items, is considered to be a mass-produced mansion that is usually in suburban areas. Frank is playing off of this name and is adding one to his order. He then showcases his love for cars by then adding a Porsche with the Bugatti design to his order as well. There's not really much to add here, as this is the classic look where I came from and look where I am now story. But rather than Frank giving us these lines straightforward, he found a way to keep it fun and entertaining, a real nod to his creativity. To summarize, I just think this was an awesome song with numerous ideas brought together in a thoughtful way, and felt that it deserved more love when we're talking about Endless. And while I skipped over a couple of lines for time's sake, every bar and every line in this track has meaning, so I'd highly recommend checking it out or rechecking it out if you heard this song before. Nonetheless, leave your thoughts on this track down below in the comments, and what's your favorite song off of Endless? If it was up to me, I think I'm picking Higgs or the At Your Best cover, but leave your own thoughts down below in the comments. My name's Sam, and I hope you enjoyed.